What if I told you that your most engaged employees might also be the employees at the greatest risk for leaving your organization? How can that be? Let's first understand what we mean by engagement. We use 7 items to measure engagement, and they include things like exerting extra effort, willingness to promote the organization as a workplace, being an overall satisfied employee, and really feeling a sense of belonging to the organization. Now, a great first step when it comes to understanding the engagement level of employees, of course, is to look at an overall engagement score. Generally, that score is calculated by looking at the individual scores for each item and really just creating an average score for those items. And that's what we typically mean when we talk about an overall engagement score. Now, there's great value in looking at that overall engagement score and particularly understanding how that engagement score looks across different groups in the organization. So, for example, one of the first steps that an organization will go through when they receive an overall engagement score across groups is to look and see how that score changes. The interesting thing about an overall engagement score is while it's very useful when it comes to diagnosing the health of the overall organization and how groups differ throughout it, we tend to think about engagement at a much deeper level. In fact, one of the things that I like to talk about is understanding how that engagement score actually came about. Now, to me, the most fascinating group and often the most disturbing group for an organization to realize that they actually have circulating in their organization is this group called seekers. But you can see the profile on this group is that they exert an extremely high level of effort. They take a great deal of pride in the organization. They would promote it as a workplace to anyone. They're highly satisfied and they feel strongly connected. They sense this a great level of contribution to the organization. They really feel caught up and part of the mission of the organization. However, they want to leave the organization at the next possible opportunity. So this is a group that's particularly problematic. More troubling, perhaps, is that if we were to average the engagement score for this group, what we would quickly realize is their overall engagement score indicates that that seekers group is actually above average on engagement. So without really unpacking that engagement score and understanding how that score came to be, this group would go completely undetected in the organization, yet it's a very high-risk group for leaving. So as this analysis confirms, the overall engagement score can be quite misleading because it can mask important profiles of engagement that exist in your organization. This cluster analysis really reveals that there are many different profiles of engagement that can remain hidden if we only rely on an overall engagement score. Now, the next step in the analysis is to help organizations understand in which proportions these different profiles of engagement are actually distributed throughout their organization. And again, following that, it would be to develop strategies to implement in order to correct the engagement levels of all these different profiles of engagement that exist in a healthcare organization. We love analyses like these because they're complex puzzles to solve. In fact, have you ever asked yourself how your overall engagement scores came about? Is it the case that half of your engagement items performed remarkably well while the other half didn't? Or is it the case that all of your items performed at about an average level? The solution to those questions is very powerful because those solutions are the things that will inform and drive your strategy forward as an organization, leading you to success.